A terrifying tyrant with a cold-blooded nature, and a cunning wife immune to most poisons, together, they were a volatile match. Their love, if it could be called that, was built on schemes, secrets, and unspoken challenges. What would become of such a thorny relationship? Let's find out. In a grand chamber adorned with intricate tapestries and lavish curtains, a man and a woman sat in silence, having breakfast. Though the steak was exquisite, neither seemed to enjoy it. Tension filled the air like a heavy fog. Suddenly, the man broke the silence. Leah side-eyes. The white-haired girl, fork halfway to her mouth, paused. Her amber eyes glanced sideways at the speaker. "Yes, Your Majesty," she answered softly, her tone respectful but hesitant. The black-haired man beside her was none other than Sihyun, the emperor of the nation. He turned to her with an expression that was both cold and slightly petulant. "Why have you stopped asking me if I've eaten breakfast?" Leah blinked in surprise, then gave a light, almost innocent smile. "Because Your Majesty is healthy now." Sihyun's eyes narrowed. "So what if I'm healthy? Does that mean you no longer care about me?" His voice had turned colder, darker, like a storm brewing behind his eyes. But Leah only smiled, seemingly unaware of his growing irritation. "Oh dear, why do you say that?" she teased gently. "I once said my greatest wish was for Your Majesty to always be healthy." Her words softened him. His hostile glare melted into something gentler, his eyes even showing a trace of shyness. "Very well, then." Leah watched the sudden shift in his demeanor and thought to herself, he's truly handsome when he looks like that. She recalled everything she had done over the past 2 years to keep him in good health, enduring his obsessions, coping with his moods, offering sleep ASMR, and checking on his well-being daily. But today was different. She calmly sliced her steak, mentally preparing herself for what she was about to say. The day had finally come. She steadied her voice. "Your Majesty, I have something to say." Sihyun looked up from his plate. "What is it?" Still smiling, Leah responded lightly, "Let's get a divorce. After all, Your Majesty no longer needs me." The words were barely out of her mouth when Sihyun's knife stabbed forcefully into the plate, the sound sharp and jarring. Leah flinched, suddenly light-headed with anxiety. He turned to her, his brows furrowed tightly. "What?" Leah's heart pounded. "Trying to keep things light," she said. "Oh dear, why the frown?" She reached over and brushed his dark hair aside, her voice soothing. "Now that you're strong, I think it's time I found peace in a quiet village somewhere." A flicker of sadness crossed Sihyun's face. His voice, when he spoke, was low and forced. "You're planning to leave the palace?" "Yes," she answered, her tone calm and final. "Ours is just a political marriage. And Your Majesty has never liked my father. Isn't that right?" At her signal, a servant approached and handed her a scroll. She placed it in front of him. "This is the divorce petition. I've already prepared it." Sihyun stared at the document, displeasure and disbelief etched across his face. His fingers tightened around the paper, crumpling its edge. Then, with a sudden motion, he slammed it back onto the table. "As you wish," he said coldly. There was a moment of silence before he added, "We'll discuss this again at afternoon tea." Leah clapped her hands with glee. "Really?" Sihyun's stern expression cracked. A radiant smile spread across his face as he looked at her. "Let's finish breakfast first." Leah, caught off guard by his sudden warmth, smiled back. "Yes, Your Majesty." She sighed in relief. That went better than expected. Maybe everything will move forward smoothly now. But she didn't notice that Sihyun was watching her quietly, his chin resting on one hand, his gaze unreadable. That afternoon, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, a scream rang through the palace. Sihyun stood in the center of the room, a glass of dark red wine in his hand. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, and his face was pale as parchment. "Why, Your Majesty?" Leah gasped in horror. Before she could move, Sihyun collapsed to the floor, blood still flowing from his mouth. "Call the royal physician, now," she shouted to the servant nearby. She rushed to his side, trembling. "What's happening?" Then she froze. "Wait, something's wrong." Dr. Merin burst into the room, kneeling by the fallen emperor. His expression was grave. 2 streams of blood. "His Majesty," the doctor stammered, looking increasingly alarmed. Leah stared in disbelief. "What is it?" After examining him, the physician finally muttered, "This appears to be poisoning." Leah gasped. "Poisoning? But oh how? He's always so careful. Her mind whirled, her breath caught in her throat. No, it can't be. Suddenly, Sihyun Bamud, who had been lying unconscious, stirred. His hand trembled as he reached out, groaning, "Leah, it hurts so much." Yet, even in pain, a faint smile played on his lips. Leah stood frozen, overwhelmed with worry. "No way. Your Majesty, did you drink poison on purpose?" Her gaze locked onto the man before her, his face pale, his lips stained with blood, but behind his agony, there was unmistakable satisfaction in his expression. He was smiling. A chill ran down her spine. Why does he look so pleased? And in that moment, Leah Selites remembered. A wave of memory flooded her thoughts. 2 years ago. The story had started 2 years ago. Leah Selit Celeste, that was the original name of the female lead in the novel. A fantasy romance, where she was the empress married to a ruthless tyrant. Her character, though beautiful, was hollow, spending her days drinking and entertaining countless lovers, representing the ruin of noble virtue. It was during a banquet that everything had gone wrong. In that novel, Leah, drunk as usual, suddenly coughed and vomited during a wine tasting. She collapsed, writhing on the ground, poisoned. Chaos erupted. No one knew the culprit. Just a meaningless end for a meaningless supporting character. Sihyun Bamud, the emperor, stood over her lifeless body, saying nothing. He then went mad with grief. Eventually, he took his own life. And the empire fell. That was how the novel ended. And now Leah Selites found herself here. Not just as a reader, as her. In the novel's final chapter, the marriage was still political. They weren't even in love. And yet the story ended in a downward spiral of heartbreak and death. Leah clenched her fists. As long as it's not me. Back when she was a reader, she'd been furious at the novel's ending. She remembered typing the 10,000th comment online. This ending is garbage. What kind of nonsense is this? Another had written, a waste of money. Don't read this. And yet another, did the author rush this ending? It's so illogical. So many readers had been disappointed, including her. She had even joked in a comment, "I feel so bad for Leah, I wish I could live her life myself and fix it." And apparently, someone had granted that wish. "Your Majesty." A voice suddenly jolted her back to the present. A maid was shaking her shoulder. "Empress, it's time to wake up." Leah groaned and cracked one eye open. A yawn escaped her lips as she slowly sat up. "Bring the drink," the maid called. A cup was pressed into her hands. "Wait, what's going on?" She glanced in the mirror and froze. That face, that snot. Panic set in. That day, she whispered, I became Leah Selites. She stared at her reflection, platinum hair, flushed cheeks, and her breath caught. This isn't a dream. I actually transmigrated. She downed the drink out of habit, then choked. Water sprayed from her mouth like a fountain. Her face turned pale. What is this?" she gasped. The nearest maid bowed repeatedly, trembling. "Please forgive us, Your Majesty. Your favorite wine ran out, so we brought beer." What? Leah wiped her mouth. Who gives beer to someone who just woke up? And then another realization struck her. Wait. Leah, the original Leah, drinks wine like water. One of the trembling maids added, "Her name is Luren, Empress. I apologize. If we dismiss her so soon after hiring, it'll cause gossip." Leah sighed and massaged her forehead. "I understand. But from now on, no alcohol. That's final." "Yes, Your Majesty," Luren said with relief. "Then shall I prepare your schedule for today?" Schedule? What am I supposed to do? Leah was still disoriented. If I act suspicious, I'll be exposed. Suddenly, a brilliant idea came to her. Yes. After bathing, I'll visit the concubine quarters. The maids blinked in surprise, then nodded and moved to prepare her outfit. She chose a striking red dress. Against her platinum blonde hair, it made her look sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. Looking into the mirror, Leah thought grimly, my husband, the tyrant, Emperor Sihyun Bamud. After Leah's death, he went mad. Killed himself. Destroyed the entire nation. At age 28. She did the math. He's 26 now. So he has 2 years left. I have 2 years left. Her fingers gripped the edge of the vanity. No time, she whispered. I don't have time to die. Luren tilted her head. Your Majesty. Leah turned urgently. Prepare to go to the concubine quarters. We're leaving. Yes, Your Majesty. As Leah walked down the hall, maids lined the corridor, bowing politely. After she passed, whispers followed. She's really going today? What else can she do? They say the Empress is draining the royal treasury. It's been 3 months since the wedding. Yes, Leah remembered now the original Empress had been infamous. Lavish parties, beauty contests, and the infamous diamond ring on a toe scandal. With a reputation like that, how could I not be poisoned? Leah leaned against the wall, tears prickling in her eyes. No wonder everyone hates her. And now I'm her. But she composed herself. They wouldn't dare kill the Empress outright. They'll go slow, quietly, poison me over time. So far, she felt fine. There was still hope. I can't die. I need to fix the plot. Keep the Emperor from going mad. If he collapses, the country falls with him. Even if I survive, there'll be no future. She rubbed her temples. Has he ever said anything about the concubine quarters? I don't think so. She was so lost in thought she barely noticed Luren whispering beside her. Your Majesty, yes. Shall I prepare beer as well? Leah froze. What are you saying? I already told you I'm not drinking anymore. Luren looked sheepish. It's just that yesterday, when you visited the concubine quarters, you said to prepare a drinking game. The words hit Leah like a bucket of ice water. What did I say yesterday? Leah Sitai's face turned blank like a duck silenced mid-quack. Luren, her ever-loyal maid, recalled the events of the previous day. The handsome men in the Empress's concubine quarters had been feeding Leah fruit, hugging her, and competing for her attention. Luren timidly reminded her, Your Majesty said the winner of the drinking game would be granted the first night's opportunity, remember? Leah turned crimson. Then, without warning, she shoved the doors to the concubine quarters open and shouted, No, cancel everything, cancel it all. Her face was drained of color. She mumbled wearily, This degenerate body, if I don't reform quickly. But before she could finish the thought, she froze at the sight before her. Inside, a crowd of absurdly handsome men turned in unison, smiling gently. Welcome, Your Majesty, they chimed sweetly. Some were shirtless, flaunting their sculpted abs. Others wore silk shirts with the buttons provocatively undone. A few looked like porcelain dolls with their gentle, pale beauty. One even had platinum hair that gleamed like moonlight. This degenerate flower garden is trying to blind me, Leah thought, horrified. A long-haired redhead stepped forward, as graceful as a blooming rose. Your Majesty, please come sit. I've changed your cushions to softer ones. A dark-haired man across the room quickly objected, That's inappropriate. Her Majesty will sit next to me. Then a blonde man joined the fray. Funny you say that, I won the drinking game yesterday. The black-haired man scowled. I'm the one Her Majesty truly loves. How dare you? Within moments, the room exploded into chaos. The men argued, postured, and flung insults at each other. They didn't even acknowledge Leah, who was still standing in the doorway. She watched the ridiculous scene unfold and chuckled darkly. Unbelievable. Then, raising her voice, she snapped, Hey. The golden word of the Empress silenced the room instantly. Some of the men were mid-hairpull, fists raised in the air. They all turned back toward her, blinking. Why, Your Majesty? They stammered. Leah's hands trembled, her teeth clenched. She looked like a lioness with a tousled manner. I said, she growled, pack your things and go. Every last one of you. You're fired. The men froze in shock. Why, Your Majesty? Someone whispered. They scrambled to respond. One tried to laugh. You're joking, right? So mischievous, Your Majesty. Another cooed, how could we live without you? But Leah's glare didn't budge. I'm not joking. Pack. Leave. Now. The temperature in the room dropped. One man fell to his knees, tears spilling down his cheeks. Your Majesty. The rest quickly followed, all falling to their knees in a mass of trembling, tearful beauty. Please don't abandon us. We have nowhere to go. How can you do this to us? A blonde man clung to the hem of her dress, his cheeks red and eyes glassy. Don't leave us. Please. Leah recoiled. Elle, let go of me. In this ridiculous emergency, there was only one logical thing to do. She shouted, Guards. 2 soldiers rushed in, spears raised. What are you standing there for? Help me. One pointed a sword at the sobbing black-haired man. Out of the way. More screams echoed in the hall. Your Majesty, didn't we kiss last night? How can you deceive a man's heart and leave? Leah massaged her aching temples, groaning. What is this nightmare? They were crying beautifully, their faces flushed, their tears glittering. Even she had to admit it was visually stunning. But this needs to end. Determined, she began pointing at each man in turn, scolding them like children. Your butt is too big. It's annoying. The man burst into fresh tears. But yesterday, you said it was cute. She pointed at another. Your muscles are disgusting. Put your shirt back on. And your breath stinks. The line of scolded men wailed as she berated them, one by one. You two, go outside and reflect on your lives. By the time she shouted, get out, for the final time, Leah was panting from exhaustion. Finally, peace. The once rowdy quarters were now silent. She wiped sweat from her brow and sighed deeply. Luren hovered nearby, watching with wide eyes. Your Majesty, are you unhappy? Leah looked at her, smiling weakly. No, I'm relieved. Luren, ever oblivious, tilted her head. I understand. You didn't like tonight's arrangement, did you? Leah's expression fell. Tonight. Tears welled in Luren's eyes as she clutched Leah's skirt. Please don't worry about the officials. Just rest until evening. Evening? What now? Then Luren brightened. How about I find an even more handsome man? Leah nearly fell over. That's not it. A soldier nearby perked up. I'll make a list of the top candidates for your Majesty's pleasure. Leah stared at him, horrified. How can Leah Sight Eyes be considered so promiscuous? No. Listen to me, she said, grabbing them both. The soldier stepped closer and tilted his head. Then, what is it? Suddenly, he let out a breathy gasp and slowly took off his uniform, revealing a six-pack and flushed cheeks. I see, it's my turn. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I didn't know you wanted me, so I wore old underwear. Luren bowed beside him. If Your Majesty needs privacy, I'll escort you to the bedroom. Leah was paralyzed. I'll be going now, Luren said with a giggle. You don't have to, Leah protested. The soldier collapsed dramatically. If you don't like underwear, I'll take it all off. Leah shrieked, covering her face. No, nothing is needed. Everyone out. She chased them all out, her voice echoing through the halls. Finally, silence. The golden curtains shimmered in the quiet. The chaos was gone. Leah dove onto the massive bed and hugged a pillow. Soft, warm, peace. At last, she had gotten rid of them all. Now I can finally rest, Leah thought, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. Rolling back and forth on the bed like a freed prisoner, she let out a mischievous, satisfied chuckle. Ho ho, it's all Leah's karma. She deserved this. Luren approached, smiling brightly. Your Majesty, how should we handle the rest of the people in the concubine quarters? Leah's exhausted body shot upright like she'd been zapped. There are more. Yes, Your Majesty, Luren said. Should we chase them out tomorrow as well? Of course, Leah declared, without an ounce of sympathy. If she felt sorry for anyone, it was only herself, her poor little life. Yes, Your Majesty, Luren replied, gently. After a pause, Luren asked again, then would Your Majesty like to relax with an aromatherapy massage and a light dinner while waiting for the evening? No, Leah groaned. I just want to sleep like this. But then. However, tonight we must prepare for the wedding night, Luren said matter-of-factly. That jolted Leah straight out of her drowsiness. Wedding night. In her mind, it was as if 1,000 lightning bolts struck at once. She covered her mouth in panic. Wedding night. Did that mean she had to sleep with him? With the tyrant? That wasn't in the original story. Leah forced a stiff smile. I think I have alcohol-induced amnesia. Luren blinked in concern. Your Majesty, are you feeling unwell? Tears welled in Leah's eyes. This game. I don't understand it anymore. She awkwardly turned her head. So, this wedding night, do we really have to do it today? Yes, Your Majesty, Luren replied calmly. It was stipulated by Duke Celeste during your marriage. It must occur at least once a month. Leah groaned and curled into a ball. I see. Duke Celeste. Her father. A founding noble of the Empire. Swordsman, diplomat, political monster and apparently, wedding planner from hell. Her face darkened. He even set rules about how often I have to sleep with my husband. Trying to recall the memories of the body she now inhabited, Leah frowned. There was no recollection of a marriage, of the Duke arranging anything. Even the memory of the certificate felt blank. She searched and searched her mind. Nothing. Just Emperor Sihyun Blacknight. And her name, Leah Sighteyes. Nothing else. Could it be? She thought. This part of the story wasn't in the original novel. Realizing she was in uncharted plot territory, Leah panicked, tearing at her hair. No, this is too much. Even side characters deserve better. This novel is garbage. After a full breakdown, she came to a painful conclusion. That's right. In this chaotic world, I can only trust myself. Disheveled, Leah slumped to the ground and whispered, Luren. Yes, Your Majesty. Luren rushed to her side. Leah tried to smile, her face half buried in her hair. What do I have to do today? She pushed her hair aside and said weakly, my memory's fuzzy from drinking. What do I usually do? Luren replied seriously, you just need to calm your mind and body. Ah, calm the mind. Leah nodded quickly. That's good. I love peace and quiet. Luren tilted her head. Truly, Your Majesty. Leah smiled brightly. Absolutely. Just quiet. Nothing else. But Luren's face fell. She hesitated, then grabbed Leah's hand. In the 2 previous wedding nights, Empress, Your Majesty screamed. Screamed? Did the Emperor, was he aggressive? Luren nodded gravely. So this time, please. For a peaceful night, don't scream again. That evening, Leah wore a silk dress with a long robe draped over it. Luren and 2 soldiers accompanied her to the Emperor's chambers, all of them masked with scarves except Leah. She stepped cautiously on the soft green carpet. During the wedding night, the Emperor becomes brutal and even screams. What is he, possessed? The 2 soldiers opened the massive door with practiced grace. Leah entered the room and paused in surprise. Wait. The bedroom was cozy, warm, clean, elegant, even. Nothing like the dungeon of terror she'd imagined. Luren bowed. Then we will take our leave, Your Majesty. The door closed slowly. The last sliver of light from the hallway disappeared. Panic overtook her. No, no, don't leave me here. Not in this terrifying place alone. Rest well, Your Majesty, came Luren's voice through the crack. Then the door shut with a final thud. Leah collapsed onto the bed, whispering furiously to herself. Of course. Since he's the Emperor, he gets everything. This is exactly like the capitalist world. Still muttering about injustice, she curled up under the covers. And what's with this Duke Cromwell guy? I can't even remember who he is. She tugged at her hair in frustration. Ooh, I'm going crazy. Suddenly, Leah sat up. No, she declared to the empty room. I'm just going to sleep. That's safest. She dove back under the blanket. Soft, warm, peaceful. Leah smiled. Ah, so comfortable. Just sleep. Sleep until tomorrow. She closed her eyes, drifting off. But then a sound. She froze. Someone was coming closer. From the shadowed corner of the room, a tall figure emerged. The Emperor. Leah forced herself to remain perfectly still, pretending to be asleep. But then, he just lay down next to her, quietly, turning his back. Leah, heart racing, broke into cold sweat. Just pretend to be asleep. Don't move. Don't breathe. But after a moment, her tense eyes softened. It's quiet. More than I expected. She peeked at the figure beside her. Even his back is elegant. Wait. She looked again. His hair, it's shinier than any of the concubines. Smooth, thick. Suddenly, she sat straight up. Wait. Did I just think that out loud? It seemed Leah Sighteyes had seen something. At that moment, Sihyun Blacknight lay on his side, his ears tightly covered, eyes shut like he was trying to block out the world. Leah Sighteyes blinked in confusion. Why is he covering his ears while sleeping? Is he sensitive to noise? Could it be obsessive-compulsive disorder? But then, a bolder thought surfaced. No, this could be trauma from war. She gazed at him with growing sympathy. If he keeps covering his ears like that, it'll hurt him eventually. With that, Leah gently reached out, calling softly, Your Majesty. But the moment her fair hand touched him, Sihyun Blacknight's large, rough hand gripped her wrist tightly and in a flash, he pushed her down onto the bed. Her eyes widened in shock. His black hair spilled forward as his sleeping robe slipped off, revealing his chiseled torso. You, he said coldly, voice like a blade. You're too noisy. His eyes, dark, sharp, and glinting with hostility, bored into hers. Leah lay beneath him, frozen. Memories flooded her like a crashing wave. This reaction. I've seen it before. Still, she spoke gently. Your Majesty, do you suffer from migraines? Suddenly, a memory surfaced. The dim concubine quarters, the men bickering like fools. Elsewhere in the castle, a cold stone room lit only by flickering candlelight. An iron cage, locked with heavy chains. Inside, a barefoot prisoner trembled on a chair, blood trailing from his wrists. Help, please help me, the man whimpered. A towering figure loomed in front of him. The stench of blood and the echo of screams filled the space. Sihyun looked down at the prisoner, his face blank. Empty. Emotionless. This disgusts me, he thought. Suddenly, he gripped the iron bars in front of him with both hands and yanked. The screaming stopped. The prisoner slumped, lifeless. As a child, Sihyun had cried when a sparrow died in his hands. He had reached out for comfort, but instead received a harsh slap. Don't get attached to such meaningless things, a man had snapped. Happy or sad, it doesn't matter. That man, Cromwell Celeste, never hugged him, never soothed him. He only instilled one lesson. Emotions are dangerous, weak, a threat to the empire. Happiness or sorrow, Cromwell had said, is not your concern. You're not a person. You're an emperor. Over the years, Cromwell's voice followed him like a ghost. Don't involve yourself in unnecessary things. Emotions are the greatest obstacle. Only by shedding them will you survive. Even after Sihyun took the throne, Cromwell whispered in his ear, never stop annihilating your enemies. That is the only way to fulfill the prophecy, to save the kingdom. So Sihyun continued killing, until there was nothing left in his eyes but war. Each murder, each scream, embedded itself in his mind, leaving a lingering ache that never faded. And the headaches. The terrible, stabbing headaches, a constant punishment for every atrocity he had committed. Once, after an interrogation, Cromwell struck his cane on the floor and said, Your Majesty, do you want to stop the pain? Sihyun had said nothing, only grunted as he walked away. Don't forget, Cromwell called after him, today is your wedding night. Sihyun stopped. Even that, his marriage, had been orchestrated by Cromwell. He thought bitterly, I agreed to it. I knew what he wanted. But it didn't matter who the Empress was. But if I'd known she would be so noisy, I would have refused. He recalled the first wedding night. Leah had screamed at the sight of his blooded body. Don't come near me, she had shrieked. Her fear had pierced him more than any blade. A man drenched in blood, surrounded by enemies, feared by all and yet utterly, profoundly alone. Since then, the headaches had only worsened. Back in the present, overwhelmed by the memories, Sihyun slammed his hand on the bedpost. It splintered and cracked from the force. It's too noisy, he growled again, clutching his head. Leah cringed, trying not to scream, covering her mouth with her hands. He remembered what he had told Cromwell. Tonight I want peace. If not, I won't guarantee your daughter's safety. To his surprise, Cromwell had simply replied, As you wish. Sihyun had paused, mildly shocked by the lack of resistance. A father who gives up his daughter so easily. Even if she dies, he won't care. That thought had lingered. Leah's soft voice brought him back to the present. Your Majesty, do you suffer from migraines? Sihyun's gaze sharpened. Surprise flickered in his eyes. She noticed. Like a wild beast cornered, he frowned and pushed her back onto the bed. Be quiet. His expression was cold, distant, threatening. She's just like everyone else, he thought. She'll scream, she'll beg, she'll cry. Or maybe I'll lose control. Maybe I'll kill her. But contrary to his expectations, Leah gently raised her hand and touched his cheek. Your Majesty, lie down and close your eyes. She pressed a hand to his chest and gently pushed him down. Aren't you tired? Sihyun lay still, stunned. For once, the cold mask on his face cracked, and he looked confused. She pulled the blanket over him and smiled. I'll tell you a story to help you sleep. So he stayed still, uncertain. Today is different. After that, Leah Solites began her story. I met a man when I was 20, she said softly. He was my first love, but he always flirted with other women, so I decided to break up with him. She paused. Hando, no, wait, I mean Haid, yes, Haid. I told him I would return the gift he gave me. Sihyun lay on the bed in silence, eyes open, mildly disapproving of her rambling. Yet Leah kept talking beside him, completely unbothered. For our 1-year anniversary, she continued cheerily, I gave this guy, Taylor, a beautiful fountain pen. He gave me cookies. Said he baked them. But I caught the label, he bought them from the clearance rack of a bakery. Sihyun didn't react. He remained motionless, but his thoughts were churning. She's just talking. Constantly. But instead of a headache, I'm actually feeling drowsy. Leah's voice kept echoing. So I told him I wasn't happy. And he got mad, said I only cared about money. I'm sleepy, Sihyun realized, surprised. Meanwhile, Leah moved on to yet another ex. There was someone named Sihyun, no, Saint. He was sweet. I paid for everything, but he always wrote me these long, romantic letters. Isn't that lovely? She tucked the blanket up to Sihyun's chest like a mother fussing over a child. Sihyun watched her through half-lidded eyes, perplexed. She's talking about her exes, in front of her husband. What kind of woman does that? And yet, there was something oddly soothing about her nonsensical chatter. The more she spoke, the more his eyelids drooped. Leah rested her chin on her hand, glancing at him. But that's all behind me now. Well, there are still a few people in the harem, but that's in the past. Sihyun's eyes flickered. A few still left. He had assumed she was promiscuous like her father, but now she just seemed romantically hopeless. And somehow, not as shallow as he thought. Her voice, though ridiculous, acted like a lullaby. Gradually, Sihyun Bermot drifted off. Leah leaned close, smiled, and whispered, "Good night, Your Majesty." Sihyun was already sound asleep. Still a few men in the harem. Why are there still a few? He mumbled as he fell deeper into dreams. The next morning, golden sunlight streamed into the room. Sihyun blinked slowly, awakening to a rare calm. My head, it's clear, he thought, touching his temple in disbelief. He turned to glance at the girl beside him. Leah was still asleep, her face softened by sleep, glowing in the morning light. She looks sweet, Sihyun admitted to himself, not nearly as loud as she was last night. Then a strange thought hit him. She talked all night, and now she's sleeping soundly. He frowned, stared at her for a long moment, then reached out as if to touch her hand, but stopped himself. My wife, she's not as unpleasant as I expected. It's surprising. Sihyun sat up, running a hand through his hair. No headache. No tension. Did I really sleep better because of her? All these years, no medicine or treatment had ever relieved his insomnia. But somehow, this woman's voice had. He looked down at her again and sighed, shaking his head. Well, a peaceful night's sleep is something to be thankful for. Quietly, he stood, adjusted his clothes in front of the mirror, and pondered his responsibilities. I've been avoiding my duties because of these damn headaches, delegating everything to Duke Celeste. But I can't keep doing that. Time to catch up on the backlog. He stepped to the door, hand on the knob, but before leaving, he looked back one last time. Leah was still sleeping, face serene. Maybe working today is my way of repaying her. The door closed with a soft click, and the room returned to stillness. Leah soon woke up, stretching luxuriously under the morning sun. Atilda, I slept so well, she chirped, hugging her pillow. Her face was radiant. Last night was wonderful, wasn't it? I must have magical ASMR powers. Lurin, who was already waiting beside her, bowed. Did Your Majesty sleep well? Leah hopped out of bed with energy. Yes. Good morning, Lurin. What's the schedule for today? As if on cue, Lurin launched into her routine briefing. After every social gathering night, there is a tea party with Duke Celeste. The Duke will arrive in 2 hours. Leah's smile dropped. The Duke, again? Her tone turned bitter. Why is he always showing up after those nights? I don't need a post-mortem. In her memories, every time she met Cromwell, he'd ask, when will you give me a grandchild? I'm old and waiting for death. She always answered, Father, I'm only 20. But he wouldn't stop. Dragon tail soup will help you birth a son. Eat it all. Leah felt dizzy from just remembering it. Actually, she muttered, I think I'm going to be sick in about an hour. Tell him not to come. Lurin blinked. But Your Majesty, haven't you been waiting for this day? Really? Yes. You said it was the only day your father could visit. Leah glared at the ceiling, silently cursing her past self. Stupid brain. Why did you arrange this nonsense? She remembered reading the author's notes on a blog titled Leah Saitais Harem Empire, which included essays like Fatherhood and Power, a legacy of pressure. I don't want to deal with anyone else's family trauma, she thought miserably. Let's just say this never happened, she whispered. Understood, Your Majesty, Luren said, a little stiffly. Thankfully, last night passed without incident. I'm sure the Duke will be relieved. Leah smiled, humming as she rested her chin on her hand. Yes, yes. Go tell him that. Oh, and prepare a bath. Right now? Yes. I need to see the Imperial Doctor today. Luren blinked in surprise but quickly obeyed. Leah, meanwhile, was already planning her next move. There's no time to rest. I nearly died from poisoning. I need to learn more about this body and fast. I need to check my condition immediately. Suddenly, the doors burst open. A young man with long hair and dazzling, androgynous features walked in, beaming. Empress, how can you be here already? He exclaimed. Leah froze. Of course I picked him for his face, she thought bitterly. If you had called me, the man said sweetly, I would have come running barefoot if I had to. Leah forced a polite smile. No, I just had a few things to ask. Then let us sit and talk, he said, guiding her to the sofa. Leah sat awkwardly. He leaned in far too close. She subtly scooted away. Isn't this a little too close for a consultation? He tilted his head. But last time, you said this distance made it easier to hear. He leaned in again, whispering by her ear. Leah's expression twitched. She moved a full meter away from him. Even the doctor's flirting? This is insane. I'll be more mindful of personal space, he offered, stunned. Please do, she muttered, already mentally regretting her harem recruitment choices. After regaining her composure, Leah Saitais cleared her throat and spoke in a more measured tone. More importantly, I've been concerned about my health lately. She straightened her posture and gave the androgynously handsome doctor a serious look. I'd like a full checkup. Allergy tests, body scans, the works. You're the doctor. I'm sure you know what's best. The man smiled charmingly and interrupted her mid-sentence. I don't know anything about that. Leah blinked. What? He shrugged. I don't know anything about those things. A beat of silence. The maids nearby froze, eyes averted, ears pretending not to hear. Raising one slender hand, the man slid it onto Leah's shoulder and said in a sultry voice, but I do know your softness very well. Leah flinched. This wasn't a doctor. This was a creep. Before she could respond, the man continued with an unsettling familiarity. Don't you remember? You said there were limits, even in the bedroom. To him, Leah Saitais was a rose on a lonely peak. But on your throne, aren't you tired of being alone, my empress? He whispered. Let me know you. Trust me. Snap. Leah smacked his hand off her shoulder with a sharp flick of her wrist. Her expression turned icy. What kind of imperial doctor doesn't even know how to conduct a checkup? She said coldly. It's a miracle you're still alive. She turned toward the guards without hesitation. Take this man away immediately. As he was dragged out, the so-called doctor cried out, Empress, wait, there must be some misunderstanding. I can fix it, Your Majesty. But Leah didn't even glance back. She stormed into the inner room and slammed the door behind her. Her eyes landed on a dusty, broken stethoscope tossed carelessly on the table. She sneered. A stethoscope covered in dust, she muttered. Keeping someone like that as a doctor. I'll be poisoned in no time. Luren, she barked. Luren entered, flustered. Yes, Your Majesty. Who recommended him? Luren looked hesitant. Actually, you did. You chose him from the candidate pool yourself. You said his face made you feel like you could trust him. Leah stood frozen. Her jaw twitched. That idiot Leah, she really picked a doctor based on his face. Without another word, she grabbed the man's framed license and tore it clean down the middle. A deadly smile spread across her face. Medical degree from a third-rate university, she muttered. Terrible grades, forged recommendations, and all of it approved. This certificate's not even worth burning. As she was about to rip it further, something clicked in her mind. Wait. Documents submitted to the Empress must be reviewed first, by palace officials. Then how did he even get shortlisted? Her fingers loosened. The torn paper fluttered to the floor. Leah's face darkened. It couldn't just be Leah's bad taste. Someone helped sneak him through. Her heart raced. A chill crept over her skin. If someone with 0 qualifications had made it to her side as her personal doctor, then it wasn't just a fluke. Someone wanted her dead. Not only that, quietly dead. No alarms, no suspicion. A slow deterioration masked as illness. This wasn't random. It was planned. And if she had been poisoned long before, then the original Leah's death had been no accident either. It was assassination. And worse, carefully orchestrated. Leah's hands clenched into fists. Whoever's behind this is still watching. Still operating. She thought of the Emperor, of his migraines, of his increasingly erratic behavior. If his private physician had been similarly corrupted. Leah's expression hardened. I won't sit back and die. I won't let anyone harm me or the Emperor. She straightened her spine and called out again. Luren. Yes, Your Majesty. Prepare to visit His Majesty. I need to speak to him immediately. Yes. Before confronting the dark forces at work, she needed clarity and answers. She couldn't afford to delay any longer. I have a few things to confirm, she said. Where is he now? Luren looked nervous. He's in his study. Good. Leah stood without hesitation. Then we're going now. Outside the Emperor's study, the hallway was silent save for the posted guards. When they spotted Leah approaching, they bowed deeply. Greetings, Your Majesty. Leah beamed at them with the sweetness of a spring flower. Hello Tilda, is His Majesty inside? The guards froze for 5 whole seconds. Was the Empress, smiling, greeting them? Could you open the door? She asked pleasantly. I have some urgent matters to discuss with him. They scrambled back to protocol. Apologies, Your Majesty. His Majesty has requested not to be disturbed, unless there's a prior appointment. Leah's smile didn't fade, but her eyes narrowed. I understand, she said gently, but this really can't wait. I'm very sorry, Your Majesty. She sighed, playing the defeated card. I see. That's unfortunate. The guards relaxed slightly. She's not going to make a scene. Until she bolted. Wait, Empress, where are you going? Leah zipped past them like lightning. They shouted after her in panic. Empress, you can't just barge in, but Leah Solites didn't care about etiquette, not today. If the Emperor won't see me, then I'll make sure he does. Inside the study, Sihyun was in the middle of a serious discussion with several ministers when the doors suddenly burst open. Leah Solites had stormed in without warning. The servants and guards behind her scrambled, too slow to stop her. Sihyun's expression darkened as his cold gaze landed on her. What is the meaning of this? Unfazed, Leah offered a dazzling smile, curtsied like a beauty queen, and greeted sweetly. Greetings, Your Majesty. His eyes narrowed. Did you forget the rule? No uninvited guests. Leah clasped her hands together and tilted her head in mock guilt. Forgive me. But there are a few things I need to ask, urgently. Sihyun frowned, skeptical of whatever emergency had brought her here. What could possibly be more important than the affairs of state? But then, to everyone's bewilderment, Leah asked with wide-eyed sincerity, Your Majesty, have you had breakfast yet? The room fell silent. Sihyun blinked. His mouth opened slightly but no sound came out. The 2 guards behind her panicked and immediately dropped to their knees. Your Majesty, please forgive us. This is our failure, we could not stop her. Please punish us instead. Leah, completely ignoring the terrified guards, stepped forward. You must be hungry after working all morning. Right. Let's eat together. Sihyun stared at her in disbelief. You came all this way, for breakfast. If you haven't eaten yet, she insisted, would you join me? No. His flat rejection landed like a hammer. The guards, seeing the Emperor's patience thinning, gently took Leah's hand. Your Majesty, please allow us to escort you out. Still, Leah wasn't ready to give up. Wait, just a moment. Outside the door, Luren rushed to her side. Your Majesty, are you all right? Leah huffed. I'm fine. Move aside. She turned back and knocked loudly on the study doors again. My king, please don't be like this. Come eat with me. Every word, every action, was driven by sincere worry. He won't recover if he doesn't eat properly. She knew she was being ignored, but she refused to back down. I need to stay close to him. How can I assess his condition if we only meet once a month on ceremonial nights? Of course, her behavior looked excessive to others, but she knew her survival and his depended on it. No one would believe me if I said I might be poisoned and he might die by suicide. That's why she had to change her strategy, getting closer through meals, building trust. Only when he lets me in can I protect us both. Leah turned to Luren with renewed determination. Bring some snacks. We're going to have a tea party right here. Back inside, Sihyun Bamud finally dismissed his ministers. You've worked hard, Your Majesty, his secretary said politely. Shall we continue the rest tomorrow? Sihyun waved him off. No, we'll proceed as planned. He stood, ready to leave only to find Leah still sitting outside the door, like a stubborn cat guarding a mouse hole. She looked up brightly. Would you like to have dinner with me? He froze. She's still here? Since morning? His mind flashed with disbelief. This woman is truly shameless. Is she trying to get attention? But before he could turn away, his gaze met hers, those sparkling, violet eyes, and something in him wavered. What is this strange feeling? She smiled like a princess from a fairy tale. Let's go to the dining room. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. And that was enough for Leah. The two of them sat down for dinner. To avoid awkward silence, Leah filled the space with chatter. Your Majesty, what kind of food do you usually prefer? She leaned in curiously. Do you like mandarins in salad? I think tomatoes work better. And lettuce helps with sleep, right? Sihyun remained silent. But Leah kept going, unfazed. The chef made chicken with almonds. That's good for your nerves. He still didn't speak. She paused, watching him set his fork down without touching a single bite. Me? She asked softly, a bit embarrassed by her rambling. A heavy silence settled over the table. Then his voice cut through the air. What do you want? She looked up calmly. I just want you to eat well. Why? His question wasn't just about dinner. It was about her. She answered honestly. You slept well last night, didn't you? I think you should eat well too. She glanced at his plate, untouched fish growing cold. You haven't eaten. You're always tense. No wonder you can't sleep. He stared at her, not speaking. Your Majesty, she added, I'm worried. But Sihyun didn't believe in simple concern. Suspicion rose like smoke. With that nonsense, are you challenging the Emperor who can snap your neck with a word? Leah didn't flinch. But you haven't done that, have you? His hand clenched. Why do you think that? Because I'm still alive, she replied with a shrug. If you'd wanted to kill me, you would have done it last night. Her calm, blunt words left him momentarily speechless. I only asked to have dinner with you, she said. Nothing more. She took a deep breath, then confessed. I dismissed my private doctor this morning. He was incompetent. And I have a request. Sihyun's eyes narrowed. Speak. I'd like to be treated by your personal physician. If that's permitted. She met his gaze head-on, not backing down. To her surprise, his expression shifted slightly. So, she's not just a pretty face. All this effort, just to strengthen your position, he asked coldly. You'd use any means, wouldn't you? Leah blinked. Her. At that moment, Leah's sight eyes hadn't expected she would be seen as such a devil in his eyes. Is he saying I inherited Cromwell Celeste's wickedness? In what way do I resemble him? She couldn't admit that kind of accusation. It's too much to say that, just because I requested to share a doctor, she countered. I only thought it would be more convenient to take care of your Majesty's health. Since she'd already begun, she decided to push forward. If you allow it, I'd also like to help treat your insomnia. To her surprise, he agreed immediately. I accept. Leah's eyes widened. Oh, really? Her heart soared. A smile lit up her face. Thank you, Your Majesty. I'll ask the doctor how I can help. You don't have to. His cold tone shattered her joy like glass underfoot. Without another word, Sihyun Bamud stood up to leave. But before walking out, he left a sharp warning. If you ever try to manipulate me again with foolish tricks, you won't keep your life. She felt the sting of being misunderstood again. I didn't mean it like that. She tried to explain, but he was already halfway through the door. Then we'll see. Unwilling to let him leave like that, Leah quickly stood up. Don't be like this, Your Majesty. Don't you want to sleep well again tonight? He turned briefly. You're quite talkative. She followed him down the hallway. I only sincerely want to help your majesty rest better. He ignored her, but she wasn't deterred. If you want to sleep like you did last night, you're welcome in my room anytime. His only answer was the slam of a door in her face. That sound pierced through her defenses. Her smile crumbled, and she staggered where she stood. Your Majesty. The maids rushed to her. Are you all right? Someone call the doctor. Leah looked down, her heart heavy. Can I even call this a success? Pretending to be strong is exhausting. She returned quietly to her room and opened a book. I've cleared the first dangerous hurdle, now it's time to prepare a proper detoxification plan. If the doctor was competent, perhaps she could even bring up the Emperor's symptoms. Though he's still cold now, that will change. Eventually. Even if Sihyun Bamud resisted now, he wouldn't forget the feeling of a good night's rest. That alone gave her hope. I will win him over. I'll protect him. And I'll survive. From that day on, Leah began to visit his study regularly. She would gently push the door open each morning and say with a cheerful voice, "Good morning, Your Majesty. Have you had breakfast yet?" At noon, she'd return. "Would you like to have lunch with me?" At this point, she had thrown away all pretense of pride. Who cares about my image? It's not like I've got anything left to lose. According to what she remembered, a week had passed since that night, meaning his limit must be approaching. That night, as the palace was wrapped in moonlight, Leah brushed her hair alone in her chamber. Loneliness clung to her like a second skin, and her eyes shimmered with quiet sadness. She stepped out into the cool night air only to find someone already waiting for her outside her door. Oh my, what wind brought you here? It was none other than Sihyun Bamud. Her eyes widened. Your Majesty. He looked tired, worn down. And finally, he admitted in a quiet voice, "Let me sleep." Leah blinked, stunned, but just a second later, a gentle smile bloomed across her face. "Yes, Your Majesty. Please come in." That night, they slept deeply, together. And in peace. The next morning, Sihyun Bamud returned to his usual paperwork. His secretary approached and whispered, "Your Majesty, the Empress has arrived." Sihyun paused. He didn't respond immediately, perhaps reflecting on the night before. Eventually, he stood up. "Wait here." "Yes, Your Majesty." His staff was stunned. He actually went to see her. Gasps and whispers followed him through the corridors. "Oh my God, it happened again. Did you see that? It's the fourth day in a row. I think I'm losing my mind." Everyone could see it. Sihyun Bamud was opening up to Leah's sight eyes. Slowly, but surely. At breakfast, he surprised her by initiating the conversation. "How was your morning?" Leah's heart fluttered. She answered brightly, "I was a bit busy. I read in the garden. The flowers are blooming beautifully today. It was really peaceful." Sihyun simply nodded and continued eating. His cool demeanor hadn't changed, but the fact that he asked was enough. Still, Leah wanted more. He's still standing in place. "I need him to move toward me." She reached forward and asked sweetly, "Your Majesty, could you pass me the pepper?" Without hesitation, he handed it to her. She smiled brightly. "Thank you. Thanks to you, this will taste even better." When he stood up to leave, she looked up hopefully. "Oh, are you leaving already?" Her tone was so light, so playful, that even Sihyun couldn't help but pause. "I'll see you tonight, Your Majesty." After he left, Leah happily continued her breakfast. Luren, ever the observant maid, leaned down with curiosity. "Your Majesty, how are you doing this?" "Chem, what do you mean?" Luren clarified with wide eyes. "I mean His Majesty. He used to avoid you completely, except for that one wedding night. But now, you see him every day?" Leah didn't hide anything. She took a sip of tea and nodded. "Yes." Luren still looked awestruck. "Should I call this training?" Leah chuckled. "Maybe." She thought back to that night. How she'd carefully served him. How he'd finally surrendered to sleep. "Welcome, Your Majesty. Please lie down." She'd helped him into bed, brushed her hair aside, and stayed by his side. The only thing he said to me was, "Put me to sleep." He was surprisingly cute, she recalled. To help him, this man with deep insomnia and haunted, sleepless eyes, she had told him a simple story. "Let me tell you about one of my maids," she'd said softly, "who used to work at my house." And as she tucked him in, her voice carried him into slumber. Now, he can't sleep without me, she realized. Maybe he's starting to like our nights together. Luren blushed and whispered, "Your Majesty has worked very hard for him, every night." Leah Sealights felt a quiet joy settle in her heart. She was happy that she could help him feel at ease. He seemed satisfied, she thought with a soft smile. Luren, watching their relationship bloom, couldn't help but share in the joy. "You two have become so close," she said warmly. "I'm sure the Duke would be very pleased." "Yes," Leah nodded. "It has to be like that." After breakfast, Leah moved on to her next task. Since that day, Father hasn't visited again. I need to finish this before nightfall. "Yes, Your Highness," the servants replied, bowing respectfully before returning to their duties. Health had always been Leah Sealight's priority, so the next thing on her list was to pay a visit to the doctor. "Greetings, Your Majesty the Queen." The doctor bowed nervously. Leah entered with her usual grace. "It must be exhausting to see me so often." Standing in front of her was Merton, the Emperor's palace doctor, a woman Leah had long suspected was unqualified. Leah sat down and crossed her legs. "Since the first time I consulted you, I haven't had a single headache-free night." Despite Merton's diagnoses being technically accurate, her care was careless. What bothered Leah more was how she treated patients like liars instead of reflecting on her own incompetence. "You treat me like I'm imagining things," Leah said coldly. "What are you going to say today?" Merton looked anxious. "Your Highness." "I've been forcing myself to act like I'm healthy," Leah continued. "But it hurts. It really hurts." Having been cornered by Leah for 2 weeks, Merton had reached her breaking point. "Hurry up and give me the medicine." "According to my diagnosis, Your Highness is perfectly healthy," Merton said weakly. Leah's voice dropped, menacing and quiet. If someone easily sells their integrity to money or power, doesn't that increase the likelihood of bribery? Aye, please explain your symptoms more clearly, Your Highness." "I don't know. Just give me the medicine." She had more than enough reason to pressure this doctor, and today was the final test. The most decisive day. Leah leaned forward slowly. "Today, I will receive an accurate diagnosis. No more excuses." She gave a quiet warning. "Your life depends on your answer." The room turned icy cold. "Now," she said, "what is your diagnosis?" Merton's hands trembled. "Why, Your Majesty?" Leah remained still, watching. "You have a mild illness." Leah smiled sweetly, but her eyes burned. "That's your answer." Merton stammered, terrified. "Why, Your Majesty, how could I?" Leah stood up. Her voice sharpened. "Then diagnose me correctly. You've made me look like a liar, and you think your head should still be attached to your body." She raised her hand. "I'll count to 3. This is your last chance. 1. I. 2. I'm sorry." Leah froze. But Merton stood her ground. "I swear, I'm not lying. Your Highness is perfectly healthy." Her voice was shaking. She was near collapse. I'll keep working hard to ensure everything is fine in your palace. Please, spare my life." Then, in an instant, Leah's face changed. Her icy glare melted into a radiant smile. "Good. That's the answer I wanted to hear. If it's you, I can trust you." Merton blinked, confused. Just seconds ago, Leah had looked like the god of death, and now she was smiling like an angel. "Since both His Majesty and I are in good health," Leah continued sweetly, "I'm trusting you to take care of His Majesty from now on." "Why yes, I understand." Leah gave her a graceful nod. "I look forward to working happily with you, Merton." And with that, she left the room with Luren. As they walked through the hallways, Leah murmured, "Is the problem with the private doctor finally resolved? Why does the palace feel less tense?" "Yes, Your Majesty. We've cleaned up most of the harem," Luren reported. "All the furniture and decorations have been removed, and the rest will be cleared today." But then her expression grew stiff. "There's one delay. Someone refuses to leave, which is slowing down the work." "What?" Leah frowned. "I explicitly ordered all of them to be removed." "I know, Your Majesty, but they insist on meeting the Emperor first." Leah scowled. More of Leah's old mess. That would end today. If they want trouble, I'll show them I'm the best troublemaker on this continent. Just then, a loud voice echoed through the walls. The royals must keep their promises. Leah pushed the door open and entered. Hey, you. If you keep shouting, nothing good will come of it. She expected a mob. But there was only one man. Oh. Just one person, she blinked. That's easier than I thought. The man turned around. Expulsion. I won't accept it. Luren leaned in and whispered, Your Majesty, that's Leo Castle. The Emperor brought him in personally. Called him charming and intelligent. Leo was visibly furious. You can't just throw me out. His Majesty promised to pay all my tuition if I joined the harem. And now he's kicking me out. I'll be an overeducated beggar. He shoved a paper in front of her. Look. This is signed. 3 years in the harem and he'd pay my Imperial Academy tuition. Leah took the document. At first, she remained calm. But when she saw the total. What? That much? Over 100 million won per semester? This was a financial disaster waiting to explode. If the truth came out, she'd be known as the villain who wasted the Empire's money. Still, she offered a solution. I'll rescreen the harem, she said. You've only been here for 2 months. I'll get you transferred and cover your fees elsewhere. But Leo shook his head firmly. No. It has to be the Imperial Academy. Why? I'm studying a specialized medical course. Only available there. It may not be profitable, but it's what I care about most. That caught her attention. Medical, you're making medicine? He nodded. Realization hit her like a lightning bolt. An antidote. This man might be able to make antidotes. She leaned forward eagerly. So, you graduated top of your basic course? Yes. I was hoping to move into general medicine. Difficult to master, but it involves real pharmacology. And it's only available at the Imperial Academy. Yes. The success rate is low, but... Okay, she cut him off. I'll support you. Leo blinked in shock. You will? My family has money, she said flatly. I'll invest in you. That evening, Leah lay beside Sihyun Bamud, curled up under the soft covers. Raindrops pattered gently against the windows. I like warm tea on rainy nights, she whispered, burying her face into the pillow. The sound of rain always calms me, and tea warms my heart. As she spoke about her childhood, about silly stories and memories, Sihyun listened quietly. Slowly, his breathing calmed. His eyes began to flutter shut. Her voice, soft and rhythmic, was better than any lullaby. Just listening to her makes me fall asleep. And somewhere in that rainy silence, Leah smiled. I'll find out what poison is in our veins. I'll save you. And myself.